Hey guys, this is Elena GARRETT again. I'm a realtor in Dallas-Fort Worth area of Texas, helping renters to try to get into rentals in 2021, which is not easy. Let me jump into my next topic. My next topic is going to be what to do if you have a certain credit score. You need to watch my video if you haven't seen my video called the state of rental market in the DFW in 2021. Then please watch that video first, because I'm not going to repeat the information from that video, but it is very important that you watch it. Okay, jumping to my current discussion without wasting time. Due to the current situation in the DFW, my advice for different type of renters is going to be as follows. If your credit scores are above 620, if your credit scores are above 620, you should be okay with most types of rentals, including those managed by property management companies. Make absolutely sure that all of your documents, supporting documentation for your financials are in the same place, which means that preferably you're a W-2 and you have your pay stubs. So have three months worth of pay stubs ready. If you're W-2, if you're 1099, then have 1 year of tax returns ready to go before you even go see a single property for rent. Okay, 620, generally you should be good. You will be still competing with other renters, but you have a good chance of actually being accepted. If you're between 620 and 600, okay, in those cases, before you go see a rental, ask me if I'm your realtor, and if I'm not your realtor, then ask whoever is in charge. Ask them to find out, does the landlord has any renter requirements that require have a credit score above 600. So it's been such a crazy year that right now the requests from landlord for you having to have a credit score of 650, 640, 620 is becoming commonplace. So before you go and spend your time driving to see a property, find out if the landlord had those kind of requirements. In general, you should still be okay. So as long as you're between 620 and 600, as long as there is nothing pops up in your credit history, like your current late payments or late child supports or whatever, as long as those things are clear, you're probably okay with 90% of the properties, but not okay with a few highly desirable ones. And the highly desirable and rare ones are the one that probably will require slightly higher credit scores. Okay. If you are between 580 and 600, you are starting to find yourself in a situation where a lot of landlords have the bottom cap being at 600, which means that people with less than 600 credit score no need to apply at all. So before you drive to a property and fall in love with it and fill out your applications, check with the landlord if there is a bottom cap on the credit scores, and if yes, then ask if that obstacle can be overcome somehow, like double deposit or something like that. And if the landlord is pretty strict on the credit scores, then move on to the next property, because you're probably not going to succeed. They will have 20 other applicants with 650 credit scores, so you will not be able to bring anything to the table that those other applicants cannot bring. Next, but before I say that, okay, so if you are between 600 and 580, my recommendation to you, examine why you're still renting, because at 580 credit score, you are eligible for an FHA loan, which means that you're now able to actually buy. So the reason that I'm bringing it up is because in the last year and a half, due to all of the events that happened, as I mentioned in my previous video on the state of DFW rental properties, I am finding myself spending less effort getting people to buy homes with an FHA loan than I'm getting the same people into a rental. Therefore, from the standpoint of your timeline, how much time do you have? How many properties can you afford to apply for? So be careful. If you're between 580 and 600, you're on that range where they run your credit score. So watch out for that. So they ask you to apply, they run your credit score. I mean, they run your credit, right? So what does that create? It creates a hit on your credit, dropping your credit potentially by 6 points. Okay, so imagine that 6 points, you're at 590, 6 points drops, you're now at 580. You're becoming even less eligible, even less desirable from others, from the standpoint of other landlords. At this point, when you're below 600, I'm starting to recommend to you that you do not go and see any properties that are offered by the property management company. So if the company has a management word in it, just do not apply for that property, even if it looks like your dream rental home, because they're going to run your credit and then they will probably deny you. By in the process of doing it, they not only take your $50, much more importantly, they take 6 points or 7 points or 10 points off your credit, dropping your credit even further, making you less likely to succeed at the next property that you're going to apply for. So do not run your credit. Do not let them run your credit mindlessly, because you're starting to lose points from which you are not going to be able to recover. If at all possible, apply with a lender, see if you can qualify for a loan, because you would be surprised. Sometimes you can qualify for a loan and your loan amount, monthly payment, is going to be less than you're currently paying in rental. Talk to me about it if you have questions on how to qualify for a loan, what the monthly payments are going to be, etc., etc. Just ping me. Don't put your email in the comments or anything like that, but reach out to me. My information will be in the description. Okay. If you are below 580, if you're between 580 and 550, I would be hesitant to advise you to run your credit at all, because unless you're in a situation where they only have one applicant, maybe two applicants, and both applicants have low credit scores, chances of you getting that property is much smaller. So imagine that they had two applicants, a 600 credit score and 550, right? What would be the possible reason for them to pick your application from the landlord standpoint? I'll answer it for you. There is none. Unless you can bring something to the table that the other person does not bring. Okay, so if your credit score is at 550 to 580, you have three solutions. Solution number one, bring something to the table that other people cannot. What does that mean? If your rental is 1,800, tell them you're going to rent it for 2,000. Okay, you're bringing something to the table that the first person did not. Now the landlord will have to weigh your offer and the risk that a low credit score presents to them against the potentially making $200 extra on their investments. Option number two, offer to prepay. So even maybe you're not paying $2,000 and 1,800 rental, offer them to prepay 12 months in advance. I know for most people it's unattainable to prepay 12 months in advance, but if you have that money and they're just laying around, do not try to be Scroogey. Being Scroogey is not going to help you right now. Maybe it helped you in the past, but right now it's not the time. It's time to pull out all the money and say, I want this rental, because otherwise you're going to be you're just going to be going from rental to rental and application to application. In the event that it isn't at all possible, think about applying with a rent to own. So a rent to own is you're still going to be renting, but it's easier right now to get into a rent to own than into a rental, because I can put you in a rent to own program that will, for 550 plus credit score, you would be able to get in a lot easier than if you try to apply for a regular rental. So ironically, rent to own right now is more affordable for you if you have 550 plus credit score, more affordable, and actually is more likely to accept you. Okay, and that's a no, that's a third solution. Okay, if you are below 550, if you're 550, 500 to 550, so 500 to 550. At this point, anything that says property management is completely out of question. You're not even going to fill out their applications. Don't waste your time. Those that are not by the property management companies, but are managed by private realtors, before they run your credit and before you pay them $50 fee, tell them that I have these issues, I have blah, 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 my current credit score is blah. Do you think it's worse for me to run the credit report? Again, every time you run a credit, they run your credit for you. It drops by, let's just say 5 to 8 points, and then it starts to accumulate and accumulate, making you potentially now, struggling to do other things, like if you suddenly need to buy a car and your car breaks, right? Because of all those rental inquiries that ended up being absolutely nothing and bringing you absolutely nothing, you also cannot go get a car, right? So that could have potentially bad implications that you will have long time recovering from. If you're at 500 to 550, what I would do is I would consider looking only at private landlords. You know, the one that posts the sign that says for rent, and it's like handwritten. So those are private landlords who don't have a way of advertising. So why would you go to them? Because they're hard to find. And if they're hard to find for you, it means that they're harder to find for other people who are interested in renting. So what you need to then target are those landlords that have not been ran over by a 600 plus credit score crowd. Because when the landlord is ran over by the 600 credit score crowd, in their eyes, you just don't have the credentials to complete the rental process. So look for landlords who are advertising offline or through a word of mouth, and then go see those and talk to them about your problem. Because the private landlords who advertise with a sign in the yard, very often they don't have the know-how to actually run a credit and a background check, and therefore they're less likely to require you to do one and less likely to run down your credit score. If you spend, let's just say, a month looking at private landlords and nothing came out of it, start considering apartment complexes. In apartment complexes, even though they're really ran down and they only have street parking and there's, people cooking curry or people cooking, stinky fish all day long next to the apartment or next door, even with all the inconveniences, you still have roof over your head. And those apartments tend to be a little bit more forgiving as far as the credit scores go. Be prepared. So in the Dallas-Fort Worth area right now, you know how they asked, what do you have more, money or time? Well, in this particular case, the question is, what do you have more, credit or money? Because if you have more money than you have credit, then you can potentially fix your problems by offering a double the deposit or going above the asking price on rental, or both. If you have more credit than you have money, then you're in a pretty good shape because you can get an almost any rental. You don't need those extra measures. If you have neither the money nor the credit, this is where the situation becomes really sad, because from a standpoint of a landlord, you're just not an applicant that they're interested in taking in. Oh, I forgot before. So the eviction ban. The reason that the landlords don't want to take chances on anybody below 600 or 620 is because of the eviction ban that happened during COVID and scared all the landlords into thinking that they will never be able to get you out of the property if you stop paying rent. So if you stop paying rent, normally they would be able to evict you, But right now we don't have that the capability to evict people due to non-payment of rent, so they're just not taking any chances. And the lower your credit score, the more likely you look to them like somebody who will need an eviction later. That's just how they think. So for 500 to 550, consider either apartments, and if you don't find anything in apartments at all, then whatever it takes, just stay where you are right now. You're probably not living on the street right now. You're probably in some kind of a place. Maybe it's not nice. Maybe you don't like your landlord. Maybe you're arguing with your neighbors. Whatever your situation is, just figure out a way to stay there for another year until the pressure. So right now the DFW marketplace is a pressure cooker. And if you're not in the 600 credit category, then that pressure cooker is going to cook you. And you want to avoid that fate. You need to stay as far away from ruining your credit or running down your credit on different applications. Stay away from it as much as possible. So try to stay where you are. If it is not possible to stay where you are, you need to move for a job reason or God knows what, right? Think about co-signers. Can anybody co-sign with you who actually have 600 plus credit score and who will be willing to, go on a lease with you as a co-applicant? If you're below 500, if your credit score is below 500, this is probably going to be one of the most challenging times you ever try to get into a rental, unless you just know somebody, through a friend of a friend who is willing to lend you a hand. You will need to find either the credit or the money to get yourself out of the situation. My recommendation is only go to private lenders who do not advertise on MLS, who have no connection with realtors, who are not going to run your credit. That's one. Number two, when you're talking to the landlords, knock them out of the park right there, saying, I'm going to pay you. You're asking for 1,800. I'm going to pay 19. I'm going to do my own repairs. I'm going to trim your daughter's hair, or whatever it takes for you to add value, additional value to the situation, either monetary value, volunteer to do repairs. Give that landlord something that other people are not offering. But be prepared to do 2 times the deposit or 3 times the deposit. And if you don't have that money, I have no further advice for you, because we can only have so many solutions, and once we run out of solutions, we run out of solutions. That is all I have for right now. It's been a very long speech. I plan to make it a little bit shorter, but well, my name is Elena Garrett, and I am a realtor in the Dallas-Fort Worth area of Texas. And coming up next, I'm going to tell you how I can help you. So everything that I have discussed so far has been pretty theoretical about how you can do something. In the next video, I can explain to you how I can help you, if necessary, to get into a house. Stay tuned. Talk to you later.